Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Hello, dear colleagues. I'm Alexey Lukatsky in the studio, and I'm visited by my colleagues, and we're going to speak about business aspects of the bug bounty programs. Dmitry Kuzivanov, technical director from Azbuka Vkusa, Evgeny Rudenko, cybersecurity rambler, Dmitry King, business leader, Standoff Positive Technologies, and Ilyas Safronov from VK, Infrastructure Protection. The first question I would like to ask about bug bounty in general. This is internal story, and if external pen tester we make an agreement, confidentiality, and this story does not go outside when they find something bad. Bug bounty, it's a public story. Service, everybody is breaking it, and then, relatively speaking, it becomes known. So why business goes in a direction which can demonstrate that something is wrong with security, and this can ideally collect a negative than a positive effect. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. Fixing your mistakes, it's good. In the launch of the bug bounty program, there's a lot of aspects, and one of them is to give an opportunity for researchers to bring and legally give you the bug that was discovered, because it's erroneous to think, when you've made an agreement, your company and your infrastructure and your services under the direct supervision 24/7, do you know this or you don't know this? Somebody is digging inside of your computers, and they have labor expenses to look for these vulnerabilities, but there is no way of getting money for this work, certain payment, because they've spent their time, they found vulnerability, but legally transferring this vulnerability, they cannot. How can we come out of this situation? The person goes to darknet, to some forums, and starts monetizing his work out there, selling these vulnerabilities to some services. Why? If you can give an official way to inform about this vulnerability and ticketing this dark market of such vulnerabilities. I think this is one of the factors. Well, this is understandable factor when we help to bug hunter to whiten his activities. That's understandable, but why business needs it? It's a responsible perception of what you do and ability to fix your own errors and admit your errors, that your information that you are transferring in business can be different. There's a business related with, well, practically in every business, there are commercial secrets, professional data, and other things that have to be kept. So by launching the public programs for vulnerability fix, and you can say that I'm ready to fix my errors, not to sit silently, but say, yes, I have the error and I fix it. That's one of the aspects. The second aspect is mass character. Researchers all over the world, well, there is a lot of them, and we cannot be limited just by one company. When you order a pen test, in one company, they have a certain red team, which consists of 5, 15, 20 people, a limited number of people. Why should you limit yourselves by that if you can attract the sea of people who want to come from other companies, from other continents, from other regions? Okay, Evgeny. Well, about this question, why does business need it? There are two aspects. The first one, there are reputational risks in the case of infrastructural being compromised, but other risks in the case of illegitimate compromising of infrastructure may be much higher. So business should weigh those risks, whether it's worthy of, going public and show yourself negatively in a public field when the vulnerability will be found by legal bug hunters, or you should risk and wait until it's going to be found by real hackers. That's topic number one. So business should decide about those risks, and the question how well it was conveyed, how well it was assessed, depending on this decision is going to be made. The second aspect is related to the fact that, well, During our previous speeches, I was speaking about it. Well, to my point of view, bug bounty program is an attribute of a well-developed process of secure development, application security, etc. And for the business, this is a certain factor which confirms success of all previous activities. When you build normal processes of secure development, security core review is built, when you have big teams, there is a certain peace from the point that, yes, we go to this program and nothing bad is happening here, nothing funny, nothing childish is going to be funny here. But the second thing is that if they will find something serious, this will help us to improve our processes. We understand why different vulnerabilities are happening with us. So business, from this point of view, does take certain risks, but every time they should weigh those risks. What is more serious, to get a vulnerability in the public space or illegitimate usage of this or get confirmation of your own processes into which you have invested money, resources, maybe you have been speaking about these processes, or confirm to the fact that this process is not really effective. Yes, of course, some risks are present, but that's how business works. You should undertake this decision. Okay, thank you very much, Ilya. Same question to me. Well, I completely agree with what colleagues have told me. I believe another plus of the bug bounty, if you have a big scope, it's more effective than a pen test, because a pen test you have to order by projects, but right here you have your external infrastructure, it's been checked for vulnerabilities also. Speaking about publicity, not everything is as simple. For example, if something bad was found, bug hunter is not telling everybody. He will try to find agreement with you, and then if you will agree, he will speak publicly about it. So I think this is a plus to the public relations, because responsible disclosure, when everything is discussed, even shows to everybody, to all the users, that you take care about the security. So only pluses, no disadvantages for the bug bounty. The question is to you, from the point of view, you are the owner of the platform. The first statement is that shows maturity of the business. It shows to the world that we are not afraid, that we're going to be broken, and on the level of processes this is done. And the second was about economy, that this is more beneficial than doing pen tests. Do you confirm to this? And maybe there are some other motives. Yes, I'm going to tell you. The main motive is that colleagues have properly said economical feasibility of the bug bounty, and about pen testing it's much higher because you're paying for the result, and during the pen test you pay for the time of work of pen testers. And it doesn't tell you that pen test is not needed and bug bounty is something that you need. These are complementary things. These are both tools that will help you to increase your level of security in the company. However, bug bounty, from this point of view, is more economically feasible because you are paying according to the fact. If the bug has been given to you, you as a vendor, you can confirm to it, you can verify it, and then you've been told that, well, this vulnerability is available and the payment can be confirmed, and you will basically get 100% conversion in this sense. And from the point of view of public relations, I absolutely agree that, yes, this is more a positive story, both for the company and Czechs, they come to us and they say, well, we are coming to you because we want to show our responsibility before the users that we have, and we want to say that we work on security. We do it openly, and we are telling openly about all of these. Speaking about additional motives, team was properly speaking about the bug hunter expertise which is available in the platform. The bug hunter expertise is a very interesting thing because they have, well, the first thing, they are not sitting in with some particular client or some particular industry. As a rule, these are guys with a really wide expertise, and this is wonderful that they can apply this expertise with you. And from the point of view industry, it's not about you, but they do have this experience. They can give it, share this with you, and the creativity that bug hunters have. They can just use it in such a way that by accumulating all their experience, they will find something that will not be found by pen tester or any scanners, or even you with your internal team, because internal team has a more close opinion. They cannot look at their service so objectively as bug hunter will look at it. Okay, let's see. There are different forms of assessment, like a bug bounty, defense, audits, red teams. Previously, many companies were involved in certification, assessment, 27007, classical internationally accepted standards. But as we can see it from the research, as paradox as it sounds, the company which are certified 27007, they drop from the point of view of the cost of their shares in the price after conducting this security analysis, because it is considered that 27001 is a paper security. It means that company doesn't know how to spend money properly. They spend it for some shit instead of doing something real. It's a paradox, but it's a fact of life. Bug bounty, well, right now I wouldn't call it a hype. Most likely it's an interesting topic. And wouldn't it become similar story that after a certain period of time, everybody is going to listen to our broadcast and they will say, we are responsible business, we go to bug bounty, and 1 year from now, everybody will go to bug bounty. And separation between responsible and irresponsible business, it will not be possible. Yeah. Well, the launch of Bug Bounty program, it's a small step. This program should work. It should process reports and close the vulnerabilities. If 1 year from now, all Russian companies will have Bug Bounty, which is operational, which receives the reports, which close the vulnerabilities and pay for them, that would be wonderful. Great. That's why it's hard to make Bug Bounty into something in a paper security if you don't do it and if you use it just as a PR tool. Okay. I will tell you briefly. I think there's a good efficiency indicator. It's the cost of the bug. And the more expensive is your bug, everybody understands that it's much more difficult to find it because you're not going to distribute your money anywhere else. And if the critical vulnerability is so expensive, you know, they don't find very often, and everybody understands that everything's okay with your security. Well, there's a very clear criteria of efficiency of this program. Yes, I will agree about the cost. Any tool can become something public relations. You know, on the horizon of several years, that bug bounty program becomes into a certain formality, so that absence of new bugs related with the budget increase. So 1-2 years you will be within this program, and then processes shut down, you have received feedbacks, bugs, you fixed it, and then the process has been built. You can find some more bugs, but it's much more difficult. In order to search for them, you need to increase the budget, but you still have this 50,000, and the program becomes a false program, and it can be a symptom. You have no bugs, your budgets are not growing, and from the point of view of the common budget, it may not influence it. You had like 5 million for the program, you've divided them into small bug bounties, but in a couple of years you can pay 1 million for critical, and most likely people will come, and most likely they will find vulnerabilities. This can be some trigger or a point, but making any tool can become a paper tool, and bug bounty is not an exception. Dima, can you add to this? Yes, I do agree that any tool can become a public relations tool, and only public relations tool for the sake of the tool. So bug bounty works in a reverse situation. Right now, it gives only positive trigger for public companies in order to increase the cost of the shares, price of the shares. But if everybody on the market will suddenly have bug bounty, well, will be a great time, because it will tell us that we have mature companies in the market. They are ready for this story. They have built these processes, and most likely this will become a positive indicator showing that the companies in the country are on a very high level from the point of view of informational security. And I would like to point out working bug bounty. Yeah, working bug bounty, because according, statistic reports, fixes, because, if you put 10,000 and you have a program but nobody brings anything, well, nobody cares about programs like that. Well, if you will remember the story, and I always had a question from big company, which pays for discovered vulnerabilities either 10,000 rubles or a discount for an apartment, and I don't know the result. Is there anybody from bug hunters who went into this program? When we've launched Bug Bounty in Azbuka Vkusa, we also gave the choice, but not apartments, money or products. Yeah, products, I understand. Go to Azbuka Vkusa and buy some good food. I would agree for that myself. But apartment, not every bug hunter can buy an apartment even if with a discount. Yes, not everybody, but good bug hunters can buy an apartment, maybe once. Why do you need 2 or 3 apartments? Then you become a rentier and you are involved in another business. This is called diversification. That's an option as well. And you see that somebody stayed without anything and he was searching for options, and here, well, he has a rental business and that's it, no problems. Okay, good. Can you tell me honestly, if you will take previous security, it was a relatively paper security, on-paper security, from certification to certification, from assessment to assessment, and maybe some internal processes. But right now it becomes more target-oriented when we bring it to the surface, when we make it public. Don't you have a feeling of pressure that, well, right now I'm sleeping or I went to have a dinner, but somebody is hacking me and I will suddenly have to run and solve this problem? So when it's an internal story, it's an internal story. But in this case, any moment of time, 24/7, whether you're on vacation, 365 a year, you know, New Year holidays, you are pressed. So don't you have this totally different feeling that you're always so nervous? I don't know about the colleagues, but I'm sleeping with this feeling, I'm waking up with this feeling, I'm living with this feeling. Yeah. This is good, because you know that you can be broken by a person who is not breaking you for the bad purposes, and it will be good for the business, except if it's going to be broken by a bad guy. So it's very good, and I agree. This feeling, all the security guys have this feeling. At least they will submit your report, and you'll be able to read it. Well, with time, it's a great joy when this report comes to you and you say, okay, good job. And you can sleep peacefully if you have a good plan, how to validate, how to fix, and the deadlines of the fixtures. Because I wouldn't sleep well if I would receive a critical report and I will fix it next 2 months and I will have to live with this critical error. So after a certain period of time, you understand that those processes that you've built and those deadlines, algorithms, which you've developed, they help you to close this critical in 24 hours, small bug, in the course of months, and then you can live with it. Well, work normally, you will sleep normally. Well, several times it was mentioned that bug hunters are white and fluffy, and they work for the good of everybody. There are stories, some remote stories from the year 2012, both in Russia as well. We did have cases as well when developer from the company cognitively left injection in a code, in a service, which was published for the bug bounty, and he was delivering this information to the colleague who was coming, and as Eve was finding this vulnerability, so kind of a small business on the side. Have you been looking at these risks? Are you fighting those risks? Do you think about those risks that, relatively speaking, you might have this secret agent who is leaking vulnerability information or creates them on purpose so that somebody would find them and would share with you and, you know, share money with him? What about this risk? How do you fight with this? I'm responsible for this one. Well, during the investigation of the incident, you can find certain artifacts and you can assume which artifacts could be here. Well, if the developer uses prepared statements and has never been writing without checking and then suddenly decided to do it, this was done on the purpose. So objective assessment is not available. These are just assumptions, but qualitative analysis will help you to discover it. And well, against the stick, there is no trick unless you have another stick, you know? We're coming back to the same situation that we've been discussing in the beginning. The program means some existing process, application security, safe development, etc. And in the framework of this process, we are developing certain experience, validation of these vulnerabilities, classification of them, cooperation with the development, experience of the cooperation with the development. In other words, honestly speaking, with a well-built process, in principle, we can understand, well, in the ideal world, we can understand how big is the anomaly of this vulnerability, because when a person has processed a lot of vulnerabilities, this person understands, well, it did happen like that, and this one, it causes certain questions. Well, maybe I'm simplifying, but it does come to my mind. Therefore, the risks that on your side you will have some hidden agent, this risk exists. And this is not a question to expertise, but to the business. They always have a question, what if they will have a vulnerability that will be more profitable to sell on the black market? Maybe we'll have some inside workers, inside agents. Well, to pacify yourself, you should have this process. You should understand how you validate it. You should understand after validation of every vulnerability, you should have a certain retrospective. You should understand why did you have it. If this is a gap in the process of development, you should remove this gap. You should understand how to avoid this in the future. And this retro plus expertise with a certain level of probability allows you to cut away those targeted injections. Yes, of course, people is the biggest problem with technologies. But making this process acceptable for the business, for the security, for exploitation, yes, it's possible in the framework of well-built process of safe development of application security in general. Okay, Ilya, question to you. I will extend this question. Do you check affiliation of backhunter with the company in which he searches for vulnerability? You know, affiliation check is a complicated thing, especially with the backhunters, because most likely these guys, they always are against everything which de-anonymizes them. So from this point of view, from their side, they keep ethicity, and we, from our side, we do not de-anonymize them. These are relations that we have. Affiliation, well, honestly speaking, it's very hard to check it, because friend, brother, sister, and there could be hundreds of those relations, and lift up the security service that will check up every bounty hunter on the platform. It's awful. Impossible. Well, maybe I've said it in vain. Well, Ministry of Digital Communications will pick up this. So we don't do such checks, and affiliation is impossible to be checked. The only checks that we do internally is not to have employees of the positive involved with the client. This separation we do because we think it is important, so that the pen tester and bug hunter, or maybe this is a person who participates in the story with the bug bounty project. Well, we do it in such a way so that he wouldn't participate on the platform. That's it. You want to participate in bug bounty? Only on the other side of the barricades. That's it. Well, everybody understands that this is not good and this is immoral. So there's another factor, is that this platform, well, the client, for example, and bug hunters earlier or later, they build good human relations. All the hunters, we know most of them, and honestly speaking, they all have reputation and they value their own reputation. So this could be a single case like that, hypothetically, but it's not a systematic problem. Because everybody are really honoring their renommé. Another question as a development of the previous one. Well, you have published your services to two platforms. So how do you catch situations when bug hunters have registered and found it and reported on both platforms? I'm speaking about the same vulnerability in the same service. We do it the same way as previously with duplicates. For example, on HackerOne, there's a date of report. So we say, who was the first one? It's an old basic principle. The first who reported, you're a duplicate, and everybody understands it. Everybody understands it. It's a simple tool. The next question, you all have put to the bug bounty platform, the standoff. Did you think about creating your own program? Because in Russia, according to recent research, which was published 1 month ago, 40 programs from different companies in Russia without platforms. So what is the benefit of the platform compared to your own program? Let's begin with us. First, we have launched our own program on public offer, and we received reports through the public email. This is the first iteration when we've done it. Well, it involves a lot of routine operations, and there is no international independent arbitrator who, in the arguments with the bug hunter, could be a person who will say who's right and who's wrong. Because you receive the report by mail, you say that this is a duplicate, then he says I was the first one, and this is a meaningless discussion which can take months. What's right, what's wrong? It's a reputational risks. The second one is a quantity of the bug hunters who are ready to go to those programs. Well, there's less number of those because bug bounty platform is a specialized resource, and there's not many of them, not many companies or services, and most likely people know about them. And most of the bug hunters are there. We have more reports and highly qualified reports and colleagues. And Dmitry, they say that many bug hunters, they don't want to disclose, de-anonymize their personality. They send vulnerabilities. For example, in case if we will disclose our own program, then we will have to pay money somehow from the point of view of legislation. You can pay money, only receive all the data about the person, copy of their passport, public offer, banking accounts, and only then you can pay this money through the bank account. But this is a full de-anonymization. But when we work with the bug hunter through the platform, we know his nick, his rating, his reputation, which reports he submitted, nothing else. Afterwards, how to deliver the payment to the bug hunter, it's not our problem, it's the problem of the platform, and the platform is has its own authority and responsible for it, and we can start as a test pilot as a pilot test, so that you don't pay significant amounts for placement on a platform without making some deposit payments, but we have to test it within 6 months with you and then make a decision whether your processes are ready for the placement on the big authority platform. Because after this, I still remember when we've closed our program and we've switched to one of foreign platforms, a number of incidents have duplicated several times, and in the first couple of months were not able to process them, and you have to be ready for that. Thank you. And I have nothing to add to these. Two main advantages of the platform is some external arbitration, some external expertise, which takes away a lot of routine from you. And the second one, which is more important to you, platform attracts more experts. It's very difficult with your own program to attract the same number of hackers. If it's not a Google or not Microsoft. Yes, Google, Google can do that. But honestly speaking, these are two main key advantages which cover everything. Okay, I agree with you. The main value of the platform, from my point of view, is the audience. The more hackers, the more effective this program will be. That's the most important thing. Okay, Dima, I have a question to you. We've started discussing it outside, but I would like to lift it again, the topic with certain guarantees for bug hunters, because our legislation today in Russia is not ready to work with bug hunters. Well, this can be looked as 273, Charter 274 of the Criminal Code of, and any bug hunter has a question automatically. Well, it will come, I will report the vulnerability, and then it will be figured out that this organization is a subject E, and, you know, these people will, some major will come to me and will arrest me. How you solve this question of distrust, that because the platform is an arbitrator, it should defend its clients who come to them and bug hunters who also report vulnerabilities through it. How can you solve this problem, how you should solve it, maybe some recommendations to legislators, and in which direction should they look? You know, you've spoken about the proper topic, because bug hunters in Russia and any researchers, security researchers in the world, they are least protected. They're not protected at all, actually, because the article, Criminal Code article for which they can be punished, but rights to which you can appeal to defend them, there are no rights on their side. So from the point of view of defense of the bug hunters and researchers who are registered in our platform, I think because we are between the client and between these bug hunters, we can play a role of defender who makes it through the rules of the platform. On one side, we have our ethical agreement that we sign with bug hunters through the platform in the part of disclosure, in the part of how they report these vulnerabilities, how they write about them, because many researchers have their own channels in Telegram and blogs, and all these things we are discussing with them all the time. Therefore, from the side of the bug hunters, we do it in such a way we keep this balance from the point of view of ethicity so that they wouldn't damage our client. But on the other side, we have agreement relations with the client. And everything which potentially can be some critical asset. It's always our agreements with the client that, okay, guys, we know that you publish that in your bounty scope you publish some of your critical assets. Bug hunters have risks that somebody can knock their door and they can go to prison on this criminal code article, and we are in some agreement relations with you, so we want hackers don't have these risks. So if you can guarantee from your side that hackers will not be arrested for doing this, then we will do the PR, we will explain to hackers that there are no risks, or these risks are limited, or we can justify them somehow. But nevertheless, this is always a dialogue. We are holding the dialogue with the client, and we are holding the dialogue with bug hunters as well, with researchers. I would like to add to this. I think that as a company, we propagate the human approach. Well, legal framework is not ready for these activities, but generally speaking, we are trying to build human relations with bug hunters, and we look with understanding if something is a little bit bending the rules. If the person comes with an open soul to us, we'll try to find an agreement. Human relations are in the first place. Well, that's understandable, but you are going openly to this program. It means you understand the risks. But the questions are coming in the case when a certain action is being conducted, which can be interpreted as a crime. And of course, the law enforcement agencies, they can lodge this case irrespectively to your desire or undesire. Well, if you would dive in the work of law enforcement agencies, well, it doesn't work like that. Law enforcement agencies, they do have a lot of work to do. And, you know, when they know that somebody will have attacked against somebody, they need some facts, they need intent, and to prove all of this, it requires a lot of work. If nobody needs it, the chance that somebody will come to you just because you've scanned their reports, well, the level of interest to this is very low. Well, if we look at some public stories, just a recent case was like about the sales of a pen test means on the SQL map, or last year's story with arrest in Obninsk of the admin of the telecom operator who was scanning his clients to figure out the open ports with recommendations to close those ports. And they arrested him that he scanned the e-subjects. And there are moments like these when this happens. But he wasn't a bug hunter. But what is the difference in this case? He was doing the good work. I think in this case, a platform could facilitate, well, the absence of law enforcement experience. It could facilitate the legalization of this market in the sense that if on this platform you have announced certain rules, specific rules, the company by itself have placed and published these rules according to which it permits to search for bugs in their own system. And in case if bug hunter will strictly follow these rules, will suddenly violate something, well, this framework of rules. To my point of view, the problem should be with the company who placed this. So from this point of view, the platform could become a certain guarantor, because if you have those errors, please define it. Please define what can be done. If you have not defined it, I'm sorry, what's the problem then? I think Major, when he sees the rules, he will continue starting criminal cases. Well, in this direction we can work, and the platform can show in bringing this platform to a certain level, because people who go to the program, they have to approach it responsibly. It's not like just we will come with a bag of money and we'll pay you for this. No, you also have responsibility for your infrastructure. You should understand why you go there, why you do that, and this is a normal experience. Yes. Well, from this point of view, we do regulate because we understand that there is no regulatory framework. You go to the platform, but precisely you do manage this process. So in all situations where a bug hunter dropped something, it does happen. Because anyway, everybody are publishing prods, so all these questions have to be regulated, and this is normal. Then we will gather them, and in case of arguable situations, when bug hunter is being told that he reported some valid vulnerability, vendor thinks that it's not like that. In any case, we play the role of arbitrator. As for the conflict situations, it's the same situation. We are not removing ourselves, we are participating all the time. I just foresee, like in a framework of the announcement of the digital ministry, if they will put it for the bug bounty, and then behind the Ministry of Digital Development, it's going to be a different story. The owner is the state, and the state, without any statement, can start criminal cases. So from the point of view of state, this topic has to be regulated by the state. So if the state wants them to come to search for something, please announce the rules. I agree. But we all remember the story just recently, 2-3 months ago, when on one side, Ministry of Digital Communications, they say we give backlogs for IT specialists, and then a military officer comes and says, well, it's not regulated by legislation, so you will be recruited. Well, this is a topic for some future discussions, but right now I would like to come back towards the finances. Why and how much it costs to participate in this program. When I go to the pen test, I have a clear agreement with the cost, with the price, which is defined. Everybody knows how to calculate it. With the bug bounty, it's understandable, but with the bug bounty, we cannot say in advance how much vulnerabilities will be found or some other conditions will be realized to compromise the infrastructure, services, etc. So how do you assess how much money should be put in the budget for the year 2023? I think it's not difficult. It's a dichotomic story. If it's the first time when you publish it, as a security person, you should know the general level of defense of your product. You should look at other prices, and you should understand how many critical errors will be sent to you. Dmitry said when they went to the external platform, significantly the number of reports have jumped. The biggest plus is that at any moment of time, you can drop the prices. For example, they've sent you the bugs, and you're the one who controls it. You understand that you get outside of the budget. They've sent you the norm, like one critical for the quarter, when they send you the 3 ones, and you start working with this, and you understand that you're not ready for this. So if there will be some fluctuations, and even for the annual period, you can equalize the prices to keep the budget. Well, I think this is a good price. Well, but the trust of the bad hunters will not be lost because he signed for one amount. Well, you drop the prices. No, you have to keep them. For example, if you send a bug, you should pay according to the old price. You drop the prices for the future bugs. For example, they send you criticals, you paid a lot of money for them, and then you think that there are some other violations, and you work with the developers with admins, then you can return the prices. I think regulation of the cost of the bug, it's a good story, but it shouldn't be used. Because if you've made an error, you can halt the program and honestly say to the bug hunters, yes, we had a budget, and we have spent it, and we will reopen the program then. And it's going to be an honest statement, because previously we've been saying that the cost of the bug is correlated with the total security of the company. That initially the cost of the bug can be small because there's a lot of them, but the older the program is, the more quality are the processes. The bugs are seldom and their price is growing. And then in this picture, when you has grown from 10,000 to 1 million, and then suddenly you dropped it to 10,000, then because the thing is to stop this. Well, I'm speaking about those who never done it. Because when you have a platform and it seems that you have a big experience not to make those errors, well, I can speak jointly. Before the launching of our own program, we have conducted independent audit with one of the companies. Great boxes, black boxes, but with providing some information to understand how difficult it is to penetrate into the contract and do something. And we have figured out that this is not very simple, that all the processes are well developed, that there is time for reaction, that we can fix it. And then we went into our own story and we have budgeted plus minus equivalent amount of financial means. How do we plan for the audit? Then we have conducted this in our program. We have understood the number of reports, we understood what was sent to us, what are disadvantages, we have tuned up the processes, and from this we were coming with a certain budget for the bigger platform. I would do it on stage-by-stage basis. So immediate assumption, how much money are needed for the platform, well, it's a difficult thing to do because this amount should correlate with risks that you try to mitigate. If you have a business card site, you have no processes and nothing else happens in the company, and you don't have a store with access to internet, what are your risks? They will drop this business card site. There are reputational risks, no material damage. It's a complicated story, and in every case, you should evaluate it separately and define it separately. There are no universal answers, and I think that situation when you run out of the budget, I think this is a situation of coming to certain conclusions. Perhaps you were not ready for this program a respective way, because in the preliminary case you do the assessment, you understand approximately which number of bugs you can receive, and then, of course, you shouldn't go with all your projects and rolling them out. Well, this is the same process, even though if it's a program, but you should go there on a step-by-step basis and get ready for this. But if you are prepared for this, but your annual budget was spent in the course of first 2 months, it's a question to many people in your company. Okay, Dima, there was a research by Positive Technologies about bug bounty program, and there was an amount 5 million rubles. It's a certain amount for which you have to look at. What it consists of, this 5 million a month? Well, it was collected on the basis of statistics from those companies that came from our bug bounty platform. Okay, objectively speaking, we've sat down and calculated how much money companies should define for itself, considering that it has pretty big scope. Because we have people who are published, they don't have a small scope for publishing. Therefore, following this report, we've been writing a number of 5 millions, and we have understood that number from 3 to 5 millions is more or less normal price to make bug bounty operational and to get some initial profits from it. Colleagues have properly said, well, you enter this story on a stage-by-stage basis. It's not like you decided for the first time to go to the bug bounty, you have published it and immediately get profit from it. Most likely this will be a suicide. That's why more often when I speak with clients, I tell them, okay, pen test, you do the pen test. It's a simple thing that will allow you to remove the initial basic things that will be. Why do you need to pay for the pen test? You will patch it, and then after this, you will be able to evaluate depending on what is your scope, and you will be able to evaluate what in this scope that you decided to publish, what is the most mature thing there. And when you will understand the sequence, if you're not doing this with all scope, then you will understand what should be the first one and secondary, what should be the first one and secondary. The second stage after the pen test, we tell you, please come to the private. Please come to the private programs. We're going to open access to 10, 15 top hackers on our platforms, and they will deliver the reports, because these top rating guys, usually they know how the bug bounty programs work. They understand how to properly make the report, to be paid for it. And these are really mature people. You can clearly and easily build your relations with them. Then you do mini stress test. You increase the number of people to whom this private program is accessible, up to 30 people, let's say, maybe up to 50 people. Then you look at, well, is it a viable program or not viable program? Because Dima properly said, because the number of reports most likely will grow significantly. And then you will understand, okay, my internal process, are we ready or not ready? What will I do with all of this? And if we say, okay, you went through the stress test, then, okay, you are ready for public program. how much time we need for going to public bug bounty. For example, you say, please start with the pen test and then private bug bounty and then public story. How much time it takes to understand that, yes, we are ready to go to the public one? Well, everything will depend on the company. Everything will depend on how well these processes are built. And if the processes are well built, then you will go through this path and you will not need a lot of time. If you didn't build your basic processes, both in R&D and both in vulnerability management, then it will take a lot of time, because you will have a parallel story and you will try to go to bug bounty. I think there's another path. If you have good media, then you will not have big budgets just for T-shirts, for publicity and open source products, which on public platforms, which don't have monetary payments, and you have just admission, like some interesting things, public relation things, and it also works sometimes. Then it's not expensive, and it attracts hunters, and it achieves if it's unique, because we have PhDs, we publish a lot of different merchandise for organizers, for speakers, and this is not something that for everybody who can buy this merchandise, and it's a valuable merchandise. This is real bug bounty, and this is also works. And if you publish some merchandise and it's like that, and it was received within the bug bounty program, well, this is a valuable, well, this is a topic, this is a food products, discounts for that, and then probably money, and this is also works. This is also a way to pay to the bug hunter. Also, it is important to add that the main investment is to build processes inside, and processes, not only information security, but the processes of relations with business and IT. Because yes, it's good, you will build good processes, you will find, accept and validate, but then somebody should fix it. And the biggest amount of time was taken by this process of relations with business and IT, because regular businesses have their own backlog of tasks, purely business tasks. And most often they don't think about these preventive things. They are non-planned ones. And this is constantly non-planned things. They have to move deadlines and features. They do it unwillingly. And this is one of the first things that I would do, is to agree with IT and business, because if we'll find some problems, how we will fix them and during which deadlines. Well, from the point of view of the economy of the question, what is much simpler right now? To have regular pen tests, to order it from external companies, to hold people in staff inside of the companies, or go for the bug bounty. Or you cannot say it either, or you should combine all of them. I think we should utilize complex approach. Why do you need external pen test? Why do you need internal team, relatively independent from security department, a little bit from outside, looking at the problem? And in which cases bug bounty is the better option? We have all three of them, and we always use all of them. External audit, it's an expert point-to-point assessment of a certain assets. Internal team is for validation of what is happening from outside. Bug hunter or the auditor of certain pen tester will send you a report. But what is to be done with this report? You have to understand what's inside of this report, how risky it is, how it should be prioritized, and what should be changed in your processes, how you should deliver it to the development and internal team is needed. It should be your own or maybe outsourced, and who knows how it happens inside of your company and the peculiarities of the business, because external people, they don't know absolutely of what is inside, what is your priority and what is not your priority. And bug hunters are simply big, large-scale pen tests with admission that you're ready to fix the vulnerabilities. You cannot select one of three and say, well, informational security is a complex of measures. I would separate, yes, I completely agree. I would separate relatively, I would separate pen test, you mostly do internal things, and bug bounty, you will not pour out all the internals. All the external things is covered by the bug bounty. If you have a good bug bounty, the external pen test will not find anything if it's without social, but the internal team is involved in discovering bugs at the early stages. And as Andrei said, you build processes, secure development, teaching the developers, and they have a lot of business inside, so that bugs would not go to pen test and bounty. That's their main objective. Okay, I will agree with colleagues, and this is totally about different things, but I will disagree with the fact that if you have a good bug bounty, you don't need pen test. Well, pen test, it's a more large-scale thing, even if we speak about external thing, because bug bounty has specific projects, specific services. Pen test allows you to find something that you could miss. You know, if there are hunters, like during the previous PhDs, they've been searching for vulnerabilities, they've been searching arrest data in chats and Telegram. Even pen test will never be able to find it. They search for the words, and everything depends on the maturity of the headhunters. Everything depends on the platform and everything else. But if you have old tested bug bounty program, then they will deliver to you, well, no matter, they bring you some dogs, cats, whatever, some relatives, whatever, anything. And bug bouncing is a more effective thing. You know, pen test is like a complex achievement, annual audit. You have to check it, you have to fix it, you have to put it on paper in general. But bug bouncing is a permanent process, which is continuously, you have continuous changes in your services. They have been constantly monitored. I agree with that. And bug bounty, you cannot social, because the pen test needs external social. These are components which help you to build the informational security system more effectively, and each one of them have their place for existence. Well, I've heard that bug bounty is an external story, and Positive have announced bug bounty for realization of invisible events, and basically penetration inside and theft of the money. So basically, this is a relative pen test, but brought to the bug bounty platform, with inviting all those who want to use this. So how are you ready for this story? It's not like just find the vulnerability in the perimeter services, but please enter and realize something that my company is considers inadmissible: the breach of delivery of the product or placement on the main page of the service, some political statement, or database of the network. How are you ready for such bug bounty? In a couple of years, we participate in the standoff. Well, standoff is a totally different story. We bring some internals for researching internal store with loyalty with the system. It's a good story. Truthfully speaking, we want to see how bug hunters will behave internally. This is non-traditional approach. This is a custom thinking and not just a standard audit. And they are catching interesting things when we've been posting at the standoff, internal standoff. Generally speaking, the scope was break whatever can be broken, and bug hunter found the service key which you published, and the service menu is being opened, and those things, when we've been publishing them, I couldn't imagine that they will be searched for and found. And sometimes you see very interesting insights after things like that. Honestly, we are coming back to what we started from, to how business is ready to this topic. And once again, the same reasoning potential. Well, if the bug hunter can realize inadmissible event from outside, it means that it can be realized from outside. It can be realized not by the bug hunter. So from the point of view of the business, this is very complicated to justify something like that. Sometimes it is very difficult to accept it. But basically speaking, I don't see any problems here. So this is the same tool, and how we've been justifying this program to the business. We are not giving anything. We are not some kind of red team. We are not some kind of box. We don't give any access. If they can do that, it can be done by anybody. So let's pay them for that. If this really can be done, we will have a budget for it and cover our asses. So this is a complicated story from the point of view of sales and from the point of view of accepting this inside of the cyber security department. Yes, it was a question to the security guy. He has to admit to the fact that he did something wrong and admit before the business and say, okay, guys, I've missed it. You should have certain nuts, strong balls, internal dignity. Well, it's a question to how well you want to do your job. If your main objective is to cover some deficiencies and pull until the next work, etc., etc. But if your main objective is to build a real system, it's an interesting quest, honestly speaking, especially when you're convinced that, yes, you're not a mouse and not even a mouse will jump through it. It's a challenge. Who is this guy from outside? But if they will find something, I think this is, worrisome, but challenging. Well, as a company, we're ready for this. We are fully supporting this, and only for this, like it was said, we are interested, like the biggest vulnerability. But another question that I have from outside, from the side of executives, those who execute, there's a question of expediency. Well, this is a chain of bugs. It's expensive. It's done by the team, and maybe you should do it with the conditions or whatever. For example, the same red team, it has the guaranteed payment, and if you do that only on the basis of results achieved, then it's not in the interests of the bug hunter. And if you, for example, some sweet piece, you should look at the prices. If this is something sweet, it's an expensive story. It could be an expensive story. I don't know. We should think about it. So be careful about it. But I think this is a very good tool to check it. Okay, and the final question, Tim. Positive have published this program, the standoff. Don't you have an internal conflict that the client and the platform is owned by the same entity? Well, the thing is that on one side, and the risk that somebody will leak something out, this risk is always available. You just have to accept this risk. And from the point of view of publication, you just do everything for this not to happen. But if anybody wants to do that, they will do that, and everybody understands that. But from the point of view of what we do, of the conflict inside and outside, we want to launch two things. On one side, this will be a 10 million contest on the platform that we have, and there's another story, internal story. Internally, we have to launch the reverse story, that if you will find any vulnerabilities, etc., in our internal services, then we are ready to pay for this as well. This is also some merch, not application. I don't know what else valuable can be there, but this are other way. I'm making a joke, but internally we are going to launch something that will be complementary for this bug bounty program, which is available. So we'll do it like that. Okay. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, and I would like to introduce participants of this broadcast about the business aspects of the bug bounty program. Dmitry Kuzivanov, technical director from Azbuka Vkusa, Evgeny Rudenko, director on cybersecurity in Rambler & Co., Dmitry Kim, business leader from Standoff Positive Technologies, Ilya Safronov, director of the infrastructural security in VK. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, and thanks to everybody who's been watching us. Don't switch off.